In a small village at the edge of an African jungle, there lived a young woman named Zara. Her beauty was the talk of the land. Her skin gleamed like the morning sun after a night of rain, and her eyes sparkled like the stars that danced across the sky. Mothers whispered to their daughters, "If only you could be like Zara," while daughters secretly wished to have even a fraction of her charm. Men turned their heads as she passed, unable to resist stealing glances at her radiant beauty. Villagers often stood in silent awe, watching her with wonder. But Zara was different. Despite her enchanting appearance, there was something strange about her. She refused to speak to anyone. Whenever a man would approach to greet her or offer a gift, she would meet him with coldness or worse, violence. Strong men, confident in their approach, were left nursing bruises after daring to speak with her. Even the women who sought her friendship were chased away. Zara had built a fortress around her heart, and no one could come close. The villagers began to gossip, murmuring that she must be cursed. Some claimed that a dark spirit had possessed her, while others believed she hid a terrible secret. Soon, admiration turned to fear. Though beautiful, Zara became an outcast, a mystery that no one dared to solve. One evening, as the crimson sun began to set, Zara left the village to fetch water from the forest spring. It was her routine to go alone, as she always did. She walked with graceful but guarded steps, her eyes sharp, scanning the path ahead. But on this particular night, the air was thick with an unusual silence. The forest seemed to hold its breath, as though something was waiting. Suddenly, the trees came alive with wild screeches. Zara barely had time to react before she was surrounded by a troop of wild monkeys. Their eyes glowed with mischief, and their snarling faces were filled with menace. They attacked swiftly, clawing at her clothes and pulling at her hair. Zara fought back with all the strength she had, her fists striking with the fury she was known for. But the monkeys were relentless. For the first time, her strength failed her. Just when it seemed she would be overwhelmed, a figure emerged from the shadows. A young man, tall and lithe, his movements as fluid as the wind, charged forward. With nothing but a long staff in his hand, he danced between the wild beasts, striking them down with precision and power. One by one, the monkeys fell, and within minutes, they fled into the dark depths of the forest, leaving Zara breathless and bewildered. She stood frozen, staring at the stranger who had saved her. The young man, breathing heavily, turned to her with a look of concern. His name was Kofi, a traveler who had just arrived in the village. He had heard the stories of the mysterious beauty who feared no man, but seeing her vulnerable stirred something within him. "Why did you save me?" Zara asked, her voice trembling not with fear but with confusion. No one had ever dared come close to her, let alone protect her. Kofi looked at her, his eyes calm and steady. "Because no one deserves to be hurt when they are alone." Zara's heart, which had been locked away for so long, stirred with emotions she did not understand. No man had ever spoken to her with such kindness. She had been hardened by the cruelty of others, by men who only saw her beauty and nothing more. But this man, Kofi, had seen her pain. Over the next few days, Zara and Kofi crossed paths more often. At first, she kept her distance, still wary of him. But Kofi never pushed. He would greet her with a smile and speak to her as if she were no different from anyone else. Slowly, Zara's defenses began to crumble. She found herself drawn to his warmth and his gentle nature. But the villagers were not so easily swayed. They watched from afar, whispering that Kofi was either a fool or bewitched by Zara's spell. Some believed he would meet a violent end at her hands, just like all the others who had tried to get close to her. One evening, as they sat beneath the towering baobab tree, Zara finally opened up. She told Kofi of her past and of how men had always tried to control her, to possess her because of her beauty. She had learned to fight back, to protect herself. But in doing so, she had built a wall so high that no one could climb it, not even herself. Kofi listened, his face thoughtful. "Strength is important, Zara, but you must also allow yourself to be vulnerable. Not everyone seeks to harm you." Zara felt the weight of his words sink into her. For the first time, she saw the truth. It wasn't the villagers who had imprisoned her. It was her own fear. Just as Zara was about to speak, a rustling came from the bushes. From the shadows emerged a group of men from the village, led by one who had long coveted Zara. Their faces were filled with anger and jealousy. "You've bewitched her," the leader shouted at Kofi. "You think you can take her away from us?" Before Zara could protest, the men lunged at Kofi. But to their shock, Zara stepped in front of him. With a single, fierce glare, she warned them off. "No one owns me," she declared, her voice strong and unwavering. "I choose who I let into my life." The men faltered, and in that moment, they saw not just her beauty but her strength and her will. The villagers, watching from a distance, realized they had misunderstood her all along. Kofi stepped forward, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "You are free, Zara. You always have been." In that moment, Zara knew she had found not just a protector but an equal, a man who saw her for who she truly was, beyond her beauty and her past. From then on, Zara no longer walked alone. The village, once wary of her, came to understand her strength and her story. And Kofi, he stayed by her side, not as her protector but as her partner, the one who had shown her that it was okay to trust again. Together, they rewrote their own tale, one filled with understanding, respect, and a love born from both strength and vulnerability. As time passed, Zara became a symbol of strength, not just for her beauty but for the courage it took to open her heart once more. The villagers no longer feared her but instead admired her resilience and the wisdom she had gained through her struggles. She and Kofi worked together to bring harmony to the village, helping others see that true strength comes from understanding both oneself and others. With Kofi by her side, Zara found peace, and together they built a life based not on appearances or fear but on trust and love. Their story, once filled with loneliness and misunderstanding, became one of unity and hope. And so, Zara's journey shows us that while strength can protect us, it's only through opening our hearts that we can truly connect with the world around us. Sometimes the hardest walls to break down are the ones we build ourselves. But once they fall, what we find on the other side is the gift of trust, love, and understanding. Thank you for joining me on today's story. If you enjoyed this tale and want to hear more folk tales from across the world, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new story. Let me know in the comments what lesson you took from Zara's journey, and if there are any tales you'd love to hear next. Until next time, this is Folk Tales of Many Tribes, reminding you that every story holds a deeper truth.